This is Prof Schmidt, Professor of Political Science and Coastal Policy. The election of 2012 is an important point for us to talk about offshore drilling and to talk about oil exploration and all of the energy policies that affect the coastal zones. Generally, we tend to think of the Democrats as being more environmentally friendly, opposed to such things as offshore drilling and so on. But the latest information, the latest news is really that it is very likely that whoever gets elected president in 2012 will pursue a very similar policy. And in particular, there's been a discussion about North Carolina's coast. In 1990, Mobil Oil wanted to drill off the coast of Hatteras in North Carolina, and that was basically stopped because of concerns about environmental issues that are related to it. It looks like for some reason energy, like gun control, has become such a hot issue that both Mitt Romney and Barack Obama are very likely to give permits for exploratory drilling, and if there are significant oil reserves that are found for actual production. The Director of Marine Mammal Programs at the Natural Resource Defense Council, Michael Jasny, said recently, quote, "There's no slowdown on offshore drilling. Ultimately, this is a political issue. It's vital for folks to understand the impact of offshore oil on their livelihood." And that, of course, is the problem. The problem is that you essentially have trade-offs that occur. On the one hand, the United States wants to be more energy independent. The United States wants to find alternate sources of all forms of energy, and offshore oil is one of those possibilities. It creates jobs. It may stabilize oil prices in the long run if you bring online all of these different sources of crude oil. On the other hand, you know that the BP oil spill, the Deepwater Horizon spill, not only killed 11 people, but it pretty much sort of vomited about 5 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. And the impact of that in the long run is still not known. The oil has disappeared from the surface, but there is great concern that it has settled into the bottom of the Gulf and along the offshore areas, and that it could present a really dangerous threat as hurricanes hit. I think I remember when Hurricane Isaac came along, all of a sudden they found tar balls on beaches, and the tar balls were analyzed, and it was oil from the Deepwater Horizon. So there is this constant pushing and pulling between those who want to produce more oil and promise that it can be done in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way, and those who say in the long run offshore drilling does represent a very big threat to things like tourism and the fishing industry. Beaches get contaminated, fish stock and shrimp and other marine life that is harvested is threatened. And so politics, oil and offshore oil exploration and production is a highly political issue. And it used to be that you know, one party was in favor and the other one was really more opposed to it. But lately, the oil lobby and the oil industry is very powerful. You may have noticed if you live in a in one of the states where the 2012 election has been very close and where a lot of money has been spent on that campaign, that the energy industry as a whole, that includes the Petroleum Institute, it includes the gas, and it includes also the so-called clean coal industry, has been running actually more ads than candidates. There was a recent analysis that showed that the total U.S. energy industry has poured more money into commercials than either the Obama campaign or the Romney campaign. Basically, I think if you've seen the campaign, it's the "I'm an energy voter" campaign, in which different people talk about how important energy is to them and that the politicians need to pay attention. So oil and petroleum is a major component of all of the things that we like to look at when we look at coastal zones in the United States, both on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And it becomes a political issue in campaign years more than any others. And what's interesting, frankly, to me is that that's in spite of the fact that oil prices have been going down, that the United States has actually become more energy independent, that natural gas has more than made up for petroleum. Coal use is actually down. The coal industry is kind of in a recession because a lot of power plants really don't want to fire up electricity with coal. And so we're in a fairly decent place in terms of energy. We actually have a model that projects going forward that the United States is going to be much more energy independent year after year over the next 5 or 10 years. We're becoming more efficient. Automobiles are more efficient. Buildings are more energy efficient. And so it seems as though you would want to protect and preserve very fragile environments such as coastal zones from oil drilling and oil production. But it's pretty hard for politicians to say no. They get accused of being anti-energy and playing into the hands of Middle Eastern governments and Venezuela and so on, and in not trying to make the U.S. more energy independent. So I thought I'd put a perspective on that because it is a very important piece of coastal zone management and coastal policy that, of course, we're interested in. Thanks a lot. See you on the internet.